Thanks for tuning in to the Thumb Strong podcast. If you could, please like and subscribe to help us reach more people and help them get started in their fitness journey. Thanks and enjoy the episode. All right. We're live for another episode of the Thumb Strong podcast. Episode 206 this week. 2 more weeks and we'll be at 4 full years. So I have some ideas to start
for the 4-year anniversary.
Yeah, I can tell you.
It's a surprise.
Yep, it'd be a surprise. But we've got a really hot topic, I think, today. I think it will apply to a lot of people in our audience and a lot of clients that we work with. It's about the connection between cortisol and fat loss. We'll get into what it is and what the effects are and everything. But what we're really kind of talking about is we do need cortisol. It's just most of us are in a very elevated state of cortisol for an extended period of time, and that has some downsides. So that's what we want to get into and how we can help control it. So Bethany, kick off. Just kind of tell us a little bit about what is cortisol and what is its function in the body.
All right. Cortisol is the body's primary stress hormone. It's produced by your adrenal glands. It regulates the wake-sleep cycle or circadian rhythm. It's a buzzword. And then energy levels, your blood sugar, your inflammation, and the fight or flight response. So, it's not bad. It's essential. We need it in our body. It's a survival hormone. It's kept us alive for 10,000 years. 10,000 years. Humans, however long humans have been around. It's kept us. That's what keeps us on our edge. It's like if we hear something rustling in the woods, that's when we know, okay, something might be coming up, right? The problem is, we're not really in that environment anymore. And now the things that are producing the stress are the phones, it's the stress, it's the life stress, it's the clutter, it's not getting enough sunlight, not having the proper food, not sleeping enough, not getting enough exercise or too much exercise. And so the problem is it's chronic stress without recovery is the issue.
Because those are things we're constantly surrounded by now, right?
Yeah.
So constantly being in that stressful environment is what's hurting us the most.
Yeah. It's all those acute stressors all day long. Yeah.
Yes.
Instead of giving yourself a break, or before all these, right? The break it was there. We didn't have to intentionally give ourselves a break from being stressed out all the time and having our that fight or flight response.
We're constantly what's the word I'm looking for? Engaged or
stimulated.
Constantly stimulated by social media, our phones, TV, work, all that kind of stuff.
And it's been normal for so long now that you wouldn't be able to tell if you are or aren't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just sitting here, I'm probably in a stress state because I just had half an energy drink and I'm sitting here, on a podcast and been looking at my phone a little bit.
My Garmin tells me when I'm stressed.
Yeah.
It's like you just had a stressful period and then it drains your battery, but then if you have a restful period, it charges it.
Yeah.
So that's, anyways, that's just a quick overview of what cortisol is. But next, how cortisol and fat loss are intertwined. It's very dependent on each individual person. I want to point that out right away. Because for some people, if you have a chronic level of cortisol, it can affect your ability to lose weight. But then you also have to dive into the issue of why that cortisol is high in the first place. Is it because you're not sleeping well enough? Because then that's also affecting your fat loss beyond just the cortisol levels.
Yeah.
And so diving into cortisol could be a warning signal, or elevated cortisol could be a warning signal. Not always the primary driver of fat loss issues. But one thing is that chronic cortisol promotes fat storage in the belly due to a higher receptor density. So you have higher cortisol receptors in the visceral fat in your stomach. And visceral fat is the type of fat that puts more strain on your internal organs and your body in general, more detrimental to your health versus the, think subcutaneous fat is squishy fat.
Yep.
And then the visceral fat, it's under the abdominal wall. So like think like somebody with a beer gut, and you go to like hit the stomach and it's hard, and you're like, oh, that's kind of weird. That's a sign of it being visceral fat, which is worse for your health. And so yeah, studies have shown higher elevated hair cortisol concentrations, like did a test through your hair. It's associated with a higher waist circumference and a higher body mass index. So this effect's also magnified in menopausal women, where estrogen declines, and estrogen is actually protective against cortisol or excessive cortisol. So that's where like women in menopause can struggle a little bit more with like stomach fat, belly fat retention.
And why is it that somebody with higher cortisol, like why does cortisol promote more fat storage?
So that comes down to when the cortisol is released in the body, it essentially signals your body to release more blood sugar, go through the body. And then, but again, if you're not like actively using that blood sugar, then it'll just kind of like recycle and then store back. But then it also just sends signals to your body to store more of that fat in your stomach.
Because it's like a survival
because you
thing
need,
built
need
into
fat.
our body.
Yeah.
Fight or flight. And it's basically saying like, hey, we need energy basically in case of a threat, because it doesn't know whether we live in right now or back thousands of years ago when there's
It's
we're
just
being
how the
hunted
human
or
body
something.
is made.
It's just how we're wired. So
And that just happens to be stored.
Yeah.
Right there.
So we need to like store fat for energy or carbs we need the carbs right away in case we need to like run or something. Like it doesn't really know the difference. But the stressors that we're promoted with now is just sitting in a computer or on our phone. We're not running from a predator or something like that.
Yeah.
So we're not using up the blood sugar that is getting released necessarily.
Yeah.
Right.
And then from what I've learned is that the biggest impact from stress or higher cortisol isn't like, because like you had pointed out, there's higher ghrelin lactose, like the hunger hormone, after having that cortisol spike, and that's because of like, you just put a bunch of, increase your blood sugar, especially if you did do some exercise, then you might have a higher craving for sugar afterwards, or just a more craving for food or carbohydrates in general due to that, because your body used it or needed it. The problem is when you get the stress, you get the cortisol boost, and then people use food as like, that's your stress relief.
Right.
And I believe that is what gets more people than just like the physiological effects. I think it's like more so psychological of like, oh, I had a stressful day at work, and it's like, I'm going to have a couple glasses of wine and take the edge off, and it ends up being half a bottle. Or,
you want the tub of ice cream.
It's like I'm just going to eat my feelings because that makes me feel better temporarily.
Yeah.
And that's like their stress relief, coping with the cortisol, but it actually ends up hurting it in the long run.
It's kind of like a double-edged sword, because what you think's relieving your stress is actually going to promote more stress, which affects your sleep, and then less sleep will make the cortisol even higher the next day. You're under more stress because you need more cortisol to keep you awake and keep you energized. So it's kind of like an endless cycle until you get it under control.
Yeah.
Speaking of a double-edged sword, if we're talking, so cortisol causes hyperglycemia or high blood pressure, right? So I was talking about this earlier. And then with hyperglycemia, high blood pressure comes with increased hunger levels, because that blood sugar is not being absorbed into the tissues or the cells, is staying in your blood because of the insulin receptors, and so it basically can't be absorbed into the tissue and be used for what it's supposed to be. So those cells are being basically deprived, right, of the energy from blood sugar. So it's a double-edged sword, because you feel hungrier because you feel like you need that energy, but you also have a high blood sugar as it is, which is causing that hunger. So by eating more when you feel hungry from the high blood sugar just increases your blood sugar even more. So you know what I mean? And that all stems from that high cortisol levels.
Yeah, because like with the insulin resistance, as we were talking about with that, right? So think of it like your muscles or your tissues are like the gas tank for your body. and your bloodstream is like the gas nozzle, like that's the transport system to get the gasoline, the fuel into your cells, into your body. And it's already full, which is what happens with insulin resistance, is like your cells are already so full with carbohydrates or like fat. If they're already at capacity, and if your gas tank's already full, you go to put more gas in there, what's it going to do? It's going to spill back out.
Yeah.
So it just stays in the bloodstream, like you said.
Yeah.
So that's an analogy that I like to use.
Yeah.
It's like if it's got no more spot to go, then it's just going to spill back out.
Yep. It's a great, good analogy.
Another, touching on the ghrelin, since cortisol increases ghrelin, it also reduces your leptin sensitivity, which leptin is your satiety hormone. So you do feel less satiated when you do eat and you have higher cortisol. Research also shows that sleep-deprived individuals consume 385 more calories per day, often from high-fat and high-carb foods, to mitigate. So you're trying to eat energy because you didn't get as much energy from sleeping or recovery.
It's crazy, like that psychological effect of like when you have that elevated state of cortisol, your body is like wired to say, okay, we need quick energy because we don't know what threat is at us right now or whatever. And so you automatically, like, if anybody's wondering, like, why do I always crave high fat and high carb foods? That's why. It's like you have that craving for those sugary foods or high fat foods. And that's a great like indicator right there. Like the poor sleep, okay, well, I'm going to crave more high fat, high sugar foods. I'm in a higher level of stress. Cortisol's up. Oh, we need more of this fuel. What's the quickest fuel? High fat, high carb foods, right?
Yeah. And it just makes you feel better momentarily. Because you're just like, oh man, it tastes good. You get that little dopamine rush. You're like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I used that the other day in class when I was sitting in class. I was so tired, and there's some like Snickers sitting there. But mind you, I don't remember the last time I've had like a Snickers bar. But I had one of those and it worked. I was like, I felt so much better. But you gotta, I'm not.
You're not you and you're hungry to learn.
Yeah, exactly.
Like those Snickers.
The marketing,
yeah. I'm also not eating those all the time, so it's a little different.
You were probably actually needed the fuel, as opposed to just being under a high level.
Yeah. Next, to talk about sleep. So.
Yep. Big one.
Yes, if you have high evening cortisol, that disrupts your melatonin production, which melatonin is what helps you go to sleep.
Opposite of cortisol, basically.
Yes. Because they should be like when your cortisol peaks, your melatonin's at the lowest point, and then when your melatonin peaks, your cortisol should be at the lowest point. But if your cortisol is high all day, then your melatonin peak doesn't really happen as much.
And your melatonin production, it takes a while to like start to kick in, and that's why a lot of people lay in bed for maybe an hour or two before they actually fall asleep. Because if they're doing stuff or watching TV or scrolling on their phone until the moment they go to bed, they can expect to wait upwards of an hour or so before that melatonin production kicks in to put you to sleep. Because that cortisol is elevated because you're like scrolling or you're stimulated, you're doing stuff. So
that's also why blue blockers are popular, like wearing blue blocking glasses, blue light blockers.
Or we just recommend trying to get off your electronics an hour before bed, half hour before bed.
I've had that happen to me. Some days more than others. I'll be sitting in bed and I'll just like lay there for and I'll check the clock and it's been an hour.
But 1 in 3 adults in the U.S. report not getting enough sleep regularly, which compounds cortisol dysregulation because poor sleep raises your cortisol the next day, which then leads to more craving, slower metabolism, less willpower, so more likely to make not great choices for yourself, which then will impact your sleep, and then will impact your cortisol the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day.
Yeah.
And so when you end up like in your 30s and 40s and you're stressed and burnt out, and you're just like, man, how did I get here? It's just day after day after day, it just kind of like snowballed.
Yep.
I feel like it starts for people in college. Be for sure, because it like during school, like in high school, well at least back when I went to high school, I don't know about now, but like people generally would get like at least a decent amount of sleep. We didn't have social media back then, and so
I didn't have time.
Like, I didn't have a TV in my room. Like,
I had MySpace
I
in high
did.
school.
Yeah, social media.
I did. Oh, I didn't have Wi-Fi at my house. That's why.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
I guess, yeah, okay, most people did. Anyways, I didn't have Wi-Fi in my house, so I really couldn't use it, which was great because then you're kind of like forced to go to bed at a certain time, wake up, like go through the day nice and structured. So I mean, it could start in high school now for people having that like
Oh, yeah,
I think
definitely.
less
it does.
sleep,
Yeah,
with caffeine,
100%.
all of that. But then it just compounds and snowballs after that.
Wouldn't it be nice if you could just go to bed when it gets dark, get up when it
I
gets
do.
light, get up when it
Not
gets
automatically.
light?
No,
Don't forget that
not
part.
automatically, but
Yeah,
I-
like
I
I know
can.
automatically though.
Yeah, that's what we used to do back
I
in the
know.
day.
I mean, I'm pretty close. I'm actually before it even gets dark and
I know.
before
Yeah.
it gets light.
It's
Yeah.
hard.
But
It's hard when it's still light outside.
Without an alarm.
it is hard. No, I couldn't.
Yeah.
That's gotta be with an alarm, yeah. I ain't waking up.
No. When I don't set an alarm, it's really weird though. I couldn't tell you how many mornings I wake up at like 7:07 in the bat, like half the time.
That's
Like
the
right. It's not even like between 7 and 7:30. It's like
707.
7:07. That's a really weird number.
That's your lucky number.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway,
The fourth point is that cortisol can lead to muscle breakdown. So breaks down the muscle protein, and they did a study in 2021. It's a randomization, so like people didn't know what group they're in or anything like that. It showed cortisol was causally linked to lower lean body mass levels and grip strength, and which is a sign of like aging, like not a great sign of muscle mass and decline and everything like that. And so less muscle equals a slower metabolism and less fat burning power, essentially. So that's why we do strength training and we focus on protein for that.
and try to talk about as much or sleep as much as possible. And make sure people are getting better sleep.
Yes.
But
Okay. Section.
probably go into
Yeah.
how to keep cortisol in check. 7 natural ways to keep your cortisol in check.
7 ways. Okay, well, the first one is getting morning sunlight. And that's going to be through your circadian rhythm, like centering that. I'd say, probably like 10 to 15 minutes in the morning, like as soon as you can, to get outside. And even if it's cloudy, it makes a difference.
Yep.
So it signals to your brain to start the day. Now, if you wake up and it's dark outside, just put on the brightest light you got.
Yep.
Like the overhead lights in the house, lights like these, like just to wake up your brain and signal to it. It's like, hey, it's time to get up.
Yep.
But that just helps you to naturally feel more awake earlier and then sleepier earlier at night.
I just started. Well, you guys know this, but
Yeah.
I just started going for a walk. Like I just basically a mile or even a half mile. I was telling you,
Mhm.
like just 10, 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to try to do a light run or a walk every morning. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, usually I get up and I go straight to the office by like 6 a.m. Well, now at 5:30, I'll get right up, throw my clothes on, head right out the door, and I'll go for a quick little run or walk. So I've done it 3 days in a row, so not very many yet, but
That's a start.
it's a start, yeah. Just to get that sunlight, and you're getting out there, getting some fresh air. Just kind of me, and no electronics or anything,
Yeah.
which is nice.
One of the best things you can do for yourself.
And that actually relieves stress at the same time when you get outside and go for a walk,
Mm-hmm.
clear your mind, just listen to the birds and stuff, and then I come in and get the day started. So it's really, I literally added, it's 10, well, it's 15 more minutes that it takes just to do that, and then I get started with the day. But so that would be like a recommendation for getting morning sunlight. Go out for a quick walk in the morning.
Pretty easy way to do it, yeah.
And more walking.
Mhm.
More
get
lower
more
stress
steps in.
exercise.
Yeah, see.
Yeah. Okay, number 2, sleep 7 to 8 hours per night. Or more if you want, if you can. That'd be
If you
great.
can, yes. If you can't get that much, focus on quality.
Yes.
Sleep.
Quick note, inadequate sleep raises cortisol 37% the next day around. So make sure you get your sleep.
Yeah.
Number 3, move your body daily.
Which is interesting though, because I
There-
never feel like I'm in a fight or flight response when I'm super freaking tired all day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like the fight or flight isn't necessarily from chronic cortisol.
Yeah,
Right.
just that short.
It's you have like that low level underlying cortisol level is a
Yeah.
little bit different than like
Yeah.
you get cortisol because like somebody's gonna come up and fight you. Like you get somebody's approaching you on the street and you're like you get the cortisol,
Mhm.
and then that's
You
when-
probably get a huge hit, like if you get a call and go to a fire, to a big wreck or fire. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
you know, you're super alert and you're ready to go. You know,
Yeah.
things like that.
Mhm. That's where it's like the
Panic.
the adrenaline comes into
Yeah.
it too. So it's cortisol plus the adrenaline.
Yeah.
So here's a question: what's the if you know, I don't know for sure, but what's the difference between adrenaline and cortisol?
Well, adrenaline's norepinephrine, so it's a little bit different in the brainwave.
It has similar effects, though.
Yeah.
I know that.
I know that adrenaline's a lot shorter.
Yeah.
It's a lot shorter. Let me see.
It gets active. I don't know if there's chronic. I don't think there's chronic adrenaline. No.
Unless you're
It's not
doing
as
drugs
available.
every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's released almost instantly in response to acute stress or danger. It increases your heart rate, elevates blood pressure, and boosts your energy temporarily.
Yeah.
It's your fast acting fight or flight, but cortisol works over a longer time frame. It's kind of like what I said. Like adrenaline's very like short, context specific, but then cortisol can be longer. So that's where the cortisol regulates your energy by releasing glucose into the bloodstream, suppressing the non-essential systems like digestion or reproduction during acute stress. That helps to maintain alertness. But yeah, adrenaline fades a lot more quickly, and then cortisol can stay elevated for a longer time.
Gotcha.
Okay. So moving daily was one,
Yep. Moving daily.
which is kind of what you said. You know, like taking little walks, stretching, or like moderate strength training. If you're already super stressed or like have high levels of cortisol, it's probably not the best to do very intense workouts because you're already at a higher baseline.
Yeah.
So adding more on top of it would be a problem. I will say though, most people aren't hitting the recommended minutes of exercise weekly or movement.
Was it 150?
Yeah, 150 plus 2 strength training sessions a week. And only 24% of people hit that right now. So overtraining isn't.
It's not. It's
issue.
a non-issue, really.
It's not. We're still not still not exercising enough. But just like keep in mind, don't overdo it to the point of like stressing yourself out over it.
Yeah.
Protein, eating balanced meals on a regular schedule. Protein, carbs help with your blood sugar and energy. Skipping meals or under eating can spike your cortisol levels as well.
That I thought was important to touch on because a lot of people that are dieting or doing some kind of restrictive thing, they're most likely under eating and their cortisol levels will actually go up. Because I've talked to a lot of people that say they have really bad cravings when they're in a diet, and that could be one of those contributing
part of the
factors.
reason.
But also, like, if you're eating less than you need to, which is what you have to do to diet to lose weight, your body's going to crave more foods because you're not getting.
It's basically telling
under
yourself,
eating.
it's like your survival. It's like, oh shit, we're not getting the fuel we need.
Yeah.
We need to
Maintain
get
this body
fuel
weight,
in as soon as possible, and then what do you crave? Like we talked about earlier, you crave the fastest fuel possible.
Fortunately, it doesn't know you're doing that on purpose.
Right.
Right. It doesn't know you're doing it on purpose.
No.
It's just trying to keep you stable
Yeah.
and where, that line. But what helps is like having protein regularly because then that at least you're fueling your body, you're giving it some food.
Yeah.
And it's more satiating, so it'll fill you up,
Yeah.
and then you don't have those cravings as much.
Yeah. I mean, it says every 3 to 5 hours to have food, but I mean, even every 3 hours is probably better just because then you don't get super hungry. Or every 2 hours. Every 2 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I'm not far off from that, probably.
Yeah, every 2 to 3 hours. Just like a little, it gives you like a little something in between your meals, but just something that provides some protein or some fiber, some fruit, something like that.
It's a good one for you, Doran.
Oh boy.
Cutting caffeine after lunch.
Hey, it's not lunchtime yet.
But yeah, too much late day, too much overall, or late in the day caffeine leads to higher cortisol and poor sleep.
Yeah, so we talked about this last week. If for adults, try to really keep it under 400 milligrams and have all that like before lunch, morning to lunch. Probably like 12, maybe 2 p.m. if you're if you stay up kind of later.
Yeah.
Definitely cut that caffeine intake off. By around lunchtime. That would be the recommendation.
I've been getting better at it.
Yeah.
I used to do one of these around this time, and then one around 2.
Yeah.
I'm just doing one here, and then maybe 50, 40 milligrams later. And then eventually I'll do 0 later.
I did really good all week. So Monday, Tuesday, and yesterday, I had 100 milligrams in the morning, and that was it all day.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
I wasn't super energized in the afternoon, though. I'm not used to it yet.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, on Tuesdays, when I have class, I'll have my energy drink at noon. And then I won't have one, and I'll get kind of tired, but I've been working out later. So I'll work out around 4,
boost,
and then that is the same thing. I feel good after that.
Yep.
So I don't need
In other words, if you're tired, move.
Yeah.
Yes.
Move your body.
Yeah, seriously.
Exercise. One thing to know, if you're having a lot of caffeine on an empty stomach, that's going to raise your cortisol too.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's
Just
better.
bad news all around.
Yeah. So one is
you gotta
better.
have your super shake in the morning before you can have your
Yes. One it's better to delay your caffeine a little bit. So
an hour and a half.
Yeah, hour to an hour and a half after you wake up, for one. And then for 2, having at least something in your system beforehand, even if you just do water and electrolytes before the caffeine is great, but then also having a little bit of protein beforehand, just a little bit of a protein shake, half protein shake or something like that, will help to blunt the cortisol spike. Number 6, manage stress daily. So doing deep breathing, gratitude journaling, prayer, hobbies, nature time, cut some grass.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Cut some grass?
Yeah, touch some grass.
Oh.
Yes, so
These
the
are
grounding. Yeah, grounding.
Well, you could cut grass.
So around lunch, I've been going outside barefoot and just kind of walking around in the yard or standing out in the yard for about 5-10 minutes. Grounding.
I think it works.
Yeah, no, it does.
I believe it.
It does.
They've been doing it forever.
Yeah.
Ions and everything.
It's
That's what
healing.
they're built for. Yes. Number 7, stick to routines. So, wake and sleep at the same time each day, ideally. Even weekends. Try not to disrupt it too much. At least just getting up at the same time is huge. Which, obviously, for us, it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
But trying to keep it, not try to swing it so far. Because for us, some days, we're getting up at 4:15 or 4:20 in the morning. You might be earlier.
4:05.
4:05. And then on the days we don't need to get up that early, the tendency to sleep in until 7. But at least
Tuesday, Thursday, if I really wanted to, I could sleep in till 6 or 7. But I try to get up between 5:30 and 6, regardless, just to I'll start the day. So it's kind of close to getting up early. It's still an hour and a half extra sleep, but and then the weekends, depending on how the week went, usually it's 7 a.m., which is pretty far off, big window. But I still go to bed around the same time.
Yeah.
Actually.
See, I don't have problems with that on the weekend.
Yeah. My late nights on Saturday is 9:30, 10 a.m. or 10 p.m.
Yeah. It's rough when it's midnight or 1 a.m. and it's okay, do I get 5 hours of sleep and keep my circadian rhythm on set?
Exactly, yeah.
Or do I sleep enough? And then but then if you sleep in, then you can't fall asleep as early and then you got to get up early the next day. So it's a whole cycle. So it's best to keep it as close as possible.
Yeah.
Bottom line. Oh my god. We have section 4 too.
Yeah, we can always go over that in maybe another episode if we want.
Talk about hormones?
How cortisol affects other hormones, unless you just want to briefly touch over them all.
I don't know, there's a lot that we can talk about here.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And I have some more points that I can make too.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I
we
figured
have
you
a lot
would.
left.
About nutrition and
Yeah, we could do a part 2 on
Part
this. So next week we can do part 2. cortisol's effect on other hormones in the body. Because we have a lot of people that talk to us about hormonal imbalances, and that causing them to not achieve their goal and stuff like that. Struggles with energy and stuff. So we can definitely get into that.
Yeah. I also want to talk about like how you can build your resilience to stress from improved diet and exercise and like the hormetic effects of those things.
Yeah. And stuff that just builds that mindset.
Yes.
Build those calluses.
Like a cold plunge.
Yeah.
Mental
Build those mental calluses.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, that's good for today then. Hopefully this was helpful. Pick one thing I would say to start implementing next week. Get through the 4th of July. And maybe next week you could either start to get outside a little bit more, prioritize your sleep, get that morning sunlight, start maybe incorporating some protein with each meal, set a bedtime and wake time, reduce that caffeine after lunch. I would also add in there, another good one would be definitely like the screens before bed. Try to like get off all electronics if you can before bed. I mean, I'm guilty of it too, but like I really try not to scroll right until I literally notice the difference immediately. If I am on my phone right until I try to go to bed, I will not fall asleep. Even if I read like 3 pages of my book, I will fall asleep. It's crazy. So I would recommend, reading or talking to your spouse, whatever you need to do, just something non-electronic.
Must not be a very good book.
It's good. I'm just really tired at the end of the day. Yeah. But yep. So hopefully this is helpful. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day and stay healthy.